I was at MIT for school and I was working a suicide hotline called Nightline. And I became convinced at that time that all people who are struggling and suffering need is psychiatrists, right? They just need to get closer to the medication, which is the solution, so that they never again feel the bad thing.
I took a lot of drugs, I drink a lot of alcohol, and it's like I'm not touching this stuff again ever in my life. So even if the doctor offered me, Jarek, maybe
You saw the similarity.
You know what I mean? I'm like, no, I'm not going there because it did not serve me.
Within the space of a year, I saw in black and white in my lab work that I was in total remission, right? So my diagnosis no longer existed. And not only that, I felt completely different in my body and aware of my body almost for the first time.
She said that we're looking for victims. We don't look for the victims. We are the victims. And we don't want you to go through the pain. And I think we are right now in the trenches too. Welcome to the Inner World, Mastering Inner World and Outer World podcast. Today I have Dr. Kelly Brogan, and she's a psychiatrist and author, and there's a lot of titles that you have. But the most excited what I'm about today, because today we're gonna talk about mental health, emotional fitness, emotional intelligence, and she talks to women. And let's see how much wisdom, how much knowledge we can take. And she said she doesn't want to talk to men, even though she was on the Joe Rogan show in 2016 and she got all the male audience. I think we are. I mean, hard, or I think we're easy. I think men are simple, aren't they?
Yes, green light and a red light, I've been told. That's all you got.
So we don't have a gray.
We have like a whole Christmas tree worth of different colors. Yeah.
Okay. I want to start the first question because I know you were in the, you're a doctor, you were in the pharmaceutical industry, not industry, but you were
Pretty much
prescribing, you're a psychiatrist. What happened? Like, how did you switch from one journey to another?
Yeah. So growing up second generation, I think it's very common. My mom is Italian, and I think it's very common that we are gently pushed to become doctors, lawyers, to take advantage of what America has to offer in terms of this capitalistic construct that we are living in. And so I was a straight A student, and I decided to become a doctor, and specifically a psychiatrist. Why? I was at MIT for school, and I was working a suicide hotline called Nightline.
It was by accident, or by how did it happen?
Honestly, it's just you look at your story when you look back and you're like, the hand of God was moving me, because I don't even know. I don't even know why I was doing that. I was volunteering, and I became convinced at that time that all people who are struggling and suffering need is psychiatrists, right? They just need to get closer to the medication, which is the solution, so that they never again feel the bad thing. Now I look back and I think, wow, I, as a woman, was that uncomfortable with human suffering and struggling that I needed to become like a master of the solution so that I didn't feel the discomfort of somebody else's discomfort. So in that role, I would often deal with students who were suicidal. It's a very common, at the time, certainly phenomenon at MIT. And we had completed suicides every year. And so I'd be in a position to speak to somebody who is struggling, and I felt like, as soon as I get them to the doctor, everything will be fine, and I will feel like the solution is unfolding. So I became a psychiatrist because it felt like mastery over the impossible to master, right? Mm-hmm. The emotional realm of the human experience. And I had been raised with a lot of feminist ideology, right? That it was important for me to be self-sufficient as a woman, to do everything that a man could do, maybe even better, and that I could tackle science and math, the same way that a man could. And here I go. So I decided I'm going to empower women. And how am I going to empower them? I'm going to make sure that they have access to medications, even if they are pregnant, even if they're postpartum and choosing to breastfeed. I'm going to make sure that they have access to the best of what conventional medicine has to offer. So I'm just painting a picture for you of how much of a believer in the medical system in the control and domination model of the human experience I was.
But how, like the belief, where did the belief came from? Because right now, like we just stopped choking even before the podcast. The belief is like 180 degrees different, like completely.
I do that often.
So yeah, so
I
yeah, I'm
know.
getting goosebumps because it's a human nature. That's what we do. Because like do you think was the programming, the parents' programming, the
It was
grandparents'
cultural programming, and it also was. Now I look back and I see the maturational stages of the hero's journey, right? And I see I was in this idealization phase around authority, where I looked at authority, and in this case, it was the system, the medical system, educational system. I looked at authority and I said, this can do no wrong. This is where I pledge my allegiance, and I say, I will follow all the rules, I will serve you, and you will love me. Okay, emotionally, I do think that's a lot of what was going on. So when I was diagnosed,
So for you, following the rules was being loved,
was being
enough?
loved by the good parent that I saw as infallible. And so the rupture, and again, this is archetypal. This is kind of always how it unfolds. It's not even special to me. The rupture that comes in psychology, it's called a rupture of empathy. It comes when you suddenly wake up one day and you feel like, wait a minute, you don't care about me the way that I thought you did. Okay. So I was diagnosed with my first real health condition, postpartum, my first pregnancy. And I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis on a routine physical, but I could see in black and white, wow, something is not quite right in my body. And I knew that what conventional medicine had to offer me was a monthly trip to CVS for my prescription and managing the dosage for the rest of my life. I also knew many, many women who never felt well again, even though they were compliant with their prescription and they were doing exactly as their doctor told them, right? They still had bloating, brain fog, hair loss, unstable weight, and their mood was either very flat or very irritable. I said, no, thanks. There's got to be an escape hatch.
So I love that you're talking about it, because all the symptoms you said, what happened, like I was in a deep depression. That's almost suicide.
Yes.
I think right now I'm on the 1,669 days of being alive. So I have all the symptoms without taking anything.
Right.
All the symptoms. Like, and my belief was, you don't take shit, because I took a lot of drugs, I drink a lot of alcohol, and it's like I'm not touching this stuff again ever in my life. So even if the doctor offered me, Jarek, maybe
You saw the similarity.
you know what I mean? I'm like, no, I'm not going there because it did not serve me. But it was like I started looking for people. Just give me other answer, not what I want to hear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And on the end of the day, truly, I found the answer within me.
Yeah. It's an inside journey. Yeah.
And I'm still on the journey.
Yeah.
So what happened
Yeah.
from then?
Well, very, very similar thing. So that rupture really, became an undeniable choice point in my life, because I saw a naturopath, which was very unlike me, as you can imagine. And she was very academic, right? So she showed me a lot of the research around food as medicine and how and why I could heal this gut, brain, hormonal, immune dysregulation in my body through the basic choices I make every day. And I wouldn't have believed that if it wasn't coming from somebody who could show me the science, right? Because I was still very
Because
much
you still
in that worldview, in that belief system. So I changed my diet, and as an Italian American eating bread and cheese for every single meal, this was a big deal. Okay, nobody in my family understood what the hell I was doing. And I did it, and I stuck to it. And within the space of a year, I saw in black and white in my lab work that I was in total remission, right? So my diagnosis no longer existed. And not only that, I felt completely different in my body and aware of my body almost for the first time. And you would think that I would be...
that's the biggest...
that was the shift. It's like I came home. Somebody was there to greet me. My awareness was there to greet me, my will, my discipline, my commitment, my choice. And And you would think I would have been really excited and said, wow, look at what I did, But I thought about the fact that in my entire medical education and training, I had had 1 hour. This is back in the day, but I don't know that it's changed much. 1 hour of nutrition education. And it was like, if you have diabetes, don't drink like a big gulp of soda, from 7-Eleven. If you have, heart disease, then don't eat salt. Like it was this very window dressing consideration around the pharmaceutical treatment. Okay. And I considered the fact that I had never been told that you could put into full remission an autoimmune condition, let alone something that could be chronic and progressive. And I felt enraged. I took out a $2 million life insurance policy. I hit the books and I spent every spare hour, and I was a new mom at the time, so there's some regrettable aspects of this, researching and collecting this armamentarium of weaponry against the system, which was the scientific references that say medications are not what we've been told. They're not as effective as we've been told.
Guys, remember, it's not me, it's her. Guys, it's not
I've
me.
said it
I'm
before,
so
I'll
glad.
say it again.
It's not me. Bullshit.
It's for educational purposes only.
Yes.
So they're not as effective as we've been told. I became very well versed in understanding the role of the placebo and specifically active placebo effect in the medical research. I began to learn about the role of the FDA and how these drugs are approved and how easy it is for pharmaceutical companies to just hide in a locked drawer their inconvenient outcomes. I began to learn about the undisclosed dangers of medications and how, especially in the psychiatric realm, the role that these medications play in completed suicides, in suicidality, in homicide, in acts of violence in people who have never experienced anything like that before. I looked into the role of habit formation and dependency in these medications. I came to the conclusion that there is no more addictive chemical on this planet than a psychiatric medication, whether that's a benzodiazepine or an antidepressant, even a mood stabilizer. I looked into all of this and I put it all together. Published a book with an exploding pill on the cover. And this was the beginning. Remember that maturational journey I said? This was the beginning of the flip, where I went from idealizing the good parent, the system, to vilifying it. And I said, I'm going to take it down, right? I'm going to punish you for how you have betrayed me. I got sick and you couldn't have helped me. I had to leave you in order to find the answer, right? And I felt betrayed by the system. I felt angry. I felt righteous. And I spent 10 years as an activist against, the pharmaceutical industry. And it culminated, I would say, in 2020 when I was, named one of the disinformation dozen, like people that you should never look to for information because, she's part of the problem of sharing myths and legends and lies. And it wasn't until then that I went through another maturational progression where I came to understand that there's not a good parent, there's not a bad parent, there's just what is, okay? And that it's up to me internally to generate the conditions for safety. And that's when I went...
How do you do that?
Yeah, how do you do that? I wrote another book on that subject.
There you go.
I really decided to focus on women, right? And what it is to be in a female body, what it is to have a biological signal, right? That tells you when something is unsafe in your environment. And why it makes so much sense that we as women are conditioned to look outside of ourselves. We're constantly
Just so you know,
surveying.
it's not only women, it's men too.
Sure. Except
Really?
we belong inside, uniquely focused on our internal terrain, whereas I do believe it's part of the biological imperative for men to stay focused and attuned to the environment, right? That you survey
I
for
will
safety.
challenge that. And I love that you're touching on the subject. Until I discovered that, I didn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So what happened is my body, my inner body, my subconscious mind or something was going on in my body. I couldn't know how to process it.
Yeah.
But it was my body screaming for help. Anxiety, depression, feeling of unsafety, of abandonment, of not being enough, not love. So my body depends, like there's knees, the most stomach, chest, and right here, my chakra, right here and I didn't know how to process it. And by the time it hit my brain, it was too late because my brain only processed the way it knows. So suddenly, like, what do you mean I listen to my body? I lay down, like, what does it mean? Why is the tingling? What it? And I'm still reading a lot about all this stuff. And women are awakened spiritually a lot quicker than men.
Yes.
We got to go through the bottom of the bottom. We got to hit the threshold. And I talked to a lot of women, and I don't want to switch the subject because I want to hear what you will say. Women hit spirituality a lot quicker. It's like you said, you just wake up, it's like, there's something. For men, and at least all the men, like thousands of men that I'm talking, is like, oh, this happened, divorce happened, bankruptcy happened, something happened with my kids, something happened with the loved ones. It's always something. And women are more, I do want to give, I don't want to generalize it, but I want to give a credit to women. Your awareness is a lot higher. You don't have to hit anything. You understand your everything what is going on.
These days, there is an armor that we have built as modern women, that sometimes is described as a masculine armor, right? And
Because you lack of safety.
and a good amount of programming around what it is that we have been promised, right? By the feminist movement, we were promised that if we pay attention to our achievements, if we, take orders from an employer versus our husband, if we make sure that we move beyond our biology, right? So our menstrual cycles, the experience of childbirth, breastfeeding, all of these things become secondary to our focus on our mission, on our purpose. We were promised that we would feel free. And
So why is it okay to take orders from employer but not husband?
yeah, exactly. Well, the fragmentation of
The orders doesn't sound right. But
Right, it's
it
just
doesn't.
playing
Yeah,
with
that's not
words.
what I mean. Not the order, but
it's playing with words, but
Yeah.
that there is fulfillment in the marketplace, right, for women versus the family is something that I have come to challenge as someone who has scaled the summit, in so many ways, as an independent woman, as, a credentialed professional, as a single mother, all the things that I
lonely
should
up there,
feel.
isn't
It's more than lonely. It's the dupe. I call it the dupe, right? Where you get there and you're like, wait a minute. What about my relationships, right? That were sacrificed on the altar of my achievement and my productivity. I never put my children first. I never put my husband first. I never put my family first. Once I got a taste of success, status, achievement, and productivity, which are all masculine values. And it's not to say that I haven't enjoyed the ride, that it hasn't been fulfilling in some way, but I've come to see that the relational fulfillment that I could have been nurturing had my priorities been properly aligned, it would have led me to a deeper experience of my feminine power.
Doesn't the connection start with us? Because then, like, I could not make any connection with anybody. I hide behind businesses and, the outside titles, medals, and, successes, because I could not find a connection with myself. I couldn't be present with myself. So then I couldn't love myself. And because of that, I have no connection with kids, no connection with wives, first, second, almost third one. It says like, I don't care about all this stuff. Like, I want you. And I didn't realize it. That I was the issue, and I blame the programming. I'm blaming for. You know what happens when we blame? We become the victim.
I know, I do know this.
And now we're sharing the message.
All of our struggling.
Yeah, and I have a big wake up call a few years ago. somebody told me, like knows me for years, it's like, Jarek, you want to lead all the men, you want to help 8 billion people, you want to stop the suicide, 740,000 this year, 680,000 suicide already this year. What if you inspire, what if you're helping men from the wounded, from the trauma that you still have? I'm like, dude, I thought I'm doing good already. And I start looking and rediscovering more and more and looking for the connections.
Yeah. I think that we have different roles as men and women in society. I know it's an old-fashioned idea, and I will stand by it, because I think that the moral and spiritual responsibility that women have is to inspire in men a new level of actualization that they wouldn't necessarily achieve without orientation towards a woman's inner compass, right? So when I say that for me to get in touch with my body, the sensations in my body, my own emotional weather, it's not just for me to feel like a full human. It's also my responsibility to the men, women, and children in society, to society, and the collective as a whole. Because reading my inner yes and my inner no is something that helps you as a man to navigate, right? If you can watch the weather of me as a woman, you'll know better if you're moving in the right direction or you need to change course. So coming into alignment with that priority means that I have to look at my achievement-focused life as a potential impediment to my full expression as a woman. Now, obviously, I have a business, I'm here doing this podcast. I am still in that role. But when this last shift I was referencing happened around 2020, 2021 for me, I decided, you know what, my role as mother is actually the most important thing now. So I stopped, again, as a woman, as a mother, I stopped scheduling things. Oh, it's just like one little trip I'm going to make to, give this keynote presentation and I'll be back, darling children, right? I stopped doing that. I stopped a certain kind of like hustle and hunger that I had for status and achievement and influence, right?
So you start prioritizing you.
Me first.
Exactly.
And my role as mother.
Exactly.
It's like an archetype, right? I started to identify with that. And it was another dark night for me to let go of the satisfaction of the egoic elements of my identity as a professional woman.
That's like, I'm sorry to interrupt, because it's like, because I'm getting goosebumps, because we truly right now have the identity crisis.
Yeah.
We really do.
Yeah.
We really do. And it's like, and I'm still, Jesus, like I'm going, and that's what I love about like recognizing my body, like the sensations and all this stuff. But because like you said, you want to be mother, but you don't identify because you still want to know who you are. And when you truly figure out, you go deep, you are automatically better mother, you're automatically better partner, you're automatically better human being from everybody else, because you connect with people differently on a different frequency, on a different energy. And then it's like, because like I keep saying, like we're on this earth to serve. We're not entitled to anything. So so when you make the switch, like how hard was to fight your inner dialogue, like, okay, I'm not going to this speech, I'm not going to the keynote. Like, how hard was that? And did you switch identity, or you just like, fuck it, I'm the most important?
So I think we have innate priorities, right? And when you align with them, there's a kind of access to ease and a certain level of okayness. I would even say maybe relaxation that becomes available, that is never, ever going to be available, no matter how many New York Times bestsellers, in my case, how many accolades, how much revenue, you'll just chase it until you die, right? So when I realigned, there was a part of me that felt, right, because remember, I was also I was an activist. So I was in the position, I imagined, of telling people what they needed to know about all of the problems in the world, especially in the medical arena, right? So when I surrendered that, I had 250,000 people on my subscriber list. I lost 100,000 subscribers, right? And I no longer understood my role in the public sphere, right? Like if I'm not there to do that, then what am I here to do? I started dancing. I started posting dance videos, and that was even more inflammatory, right? So I had
identity crisis because you're trying to figure out, right? Like who you are,
and just try things on. And I met so many voices inside of myself that were recriminating and hateful and judgmental.
You're truly telling my story,
because it's archetypal.
You know what I love it? Like you're telling my story in different words because we're different humans. So it's just like literally like
there's these phases, and I was able to see you mentioned the victim consciousness, right? I was able to see how even though I thought I was empowering myself and other people, that I was still in that childlike consciousness of the victim. And that until I could understand, the sinner and the saint are within, right? Until I could understand that the full spectrum of anything I might ever blame, finger point, fight on the outside was in here, which was very humbling, to say the least, as an activist, right? Because that means if I am warning people about totalitarian energy or controlling, agendas, how am I holding that energy? If I'm imagining that there's a villain out there, how am I also being the villain, right? How am I, because in the triangle, we have the victim, the villain, and the rescuer. How am I living in the rescuer? And why is that a problem? Well, it's a problem because it means that I need a victim, right? So I'm maintaining exactly that which I say I'm resolving. And I also imagine myself to be in a uniquely superior position. So a lot of the work that I did in that time was resolving superiority over exes, over, the demons out there, over even the version of myself that didn't know better, right? So I had to come to a place for my own maturation where even though I was becoming more and more self-aware, it wasn't necessarily better than when I was eating McDonald's and medicating women. Could that possibly be true? And I now have come to the belief that I don't believe it's a meritocracy, right? It's not better and worse. It's just a maturational process. And in that process, I've come to a lot of uncertainty, a lot of neutrality around things. I, in my role as mother with my daughters, just in time, because as they were tweens and becoming teens, I got off of my know-it-all high horse, where with the best of intentions, I thought, you need to eat exactly this, you need to worry about your EMF exposure, you need to, believe this about the world and not that. I let it all go. I also, interestingly, decided to stop drinking alcohol around that time. So this was 3 or so years ago. And I don't know what the connection was in my case. Because
it's to me, it was everything.
It changed that dynamic in a way that I can only explain as I became really good at being wrong. And like you said, apologizing to my kids.
The alcohol killed the chakra over here, and then you'll find a connection between your heart, spirit, and your mind. And alcohol helped me tremendously, but sugar, it just when I quit sugar, it was like steroids.
That's incredible.
I couldn't believe it, and I just realized how I stopped calling myself stupid because when you say it out loud, you believe in it. How little did I know? Every day, I'm what I thought I know or I didn't know was the consciousness level or the awareness level that I was at that point. Before we started the podcast, I told you I made so many mistakes with my kids, and I still do it. The same thing with my partner. A year from now, I might look at the podcast and I might say something. It's I can't believe it. That's what was believed at that time, but I don't blame myself for it anymore because this is my awareness as of today on September 29th, or This is my awareness, and I know what I know, And I truly do believe I don't know what I don't know. And what you do with the knowledge, because like I read a lot and people read a lot, but they don't use the knowledge. And I think the emotional intelligence, emotional fitness it's not the IQ is the more important, because you can read and not apply it, and we constantly have to apply it, and it's like bullshit, that didn't work. Well, didn't work for you, but it might work for somebody else. That's why we do the podcast and we share all our wisdom, because it might work for you. She said that we're looking for victims. We don't look for the victims. We are the victims, and we don't want you to go through the pain. And I think we are right now in the trenches too. We're learning like new things on like I love this stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm guys, I'm being selfish right now. I do this shit for me. Like I want the knowledge. Like when I invite you, like I want to pick your brain. Like I want to know how you think. I want to put myself in your shoe and understand, learning new perspective. And I'm fortunate enough that I can do that.
Yeah. And what you're suggesting around emotional fitness, I love that phrase, and I would call it emotional maturity. It is the most direct way to influence change, right? Because I learned that as a woman, I don't need to drag my kids to family therapy. I don't need to drag my partner to couples counseling. I don't know. I got to get my parents to do the healthy things I think they need to do. I just stay in my lane. I focus on filling my own cup. I develop intimacy with my body and the cues of my body. And those things change. And there's one ingredient that I know you will agree with that is necessary, whether I'm moving beyond a diagnosis of a health condition, or I am saving my marriage, or developing a deeper bond with my kids, or running a softer business as a female CEO. It's personal responsibility. And when I take personal responsibility, radical responsibility for my role, then I get to feel my full power. And this was this sort of later phase where I stopped distracting myself, trying to fix all the stuff and the people out there, playing the rescuer, and micromanaging and controlling everybody else's experience, which of course I cannot.
And you said the word surrender. You said it, I think 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
But surrender is not only with surrender to God, but surrender with everything else. And I love it. Before the podcast, you said with the kids, and you did say it, they are on their own journey.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Because I'm a father of 5. It's like, dude, like I want to help them. I want to help people. I want to help 1 billion people. Like I want to like everybody, don't suffer. But what happened is we have to go through our own journey. So whoever is listening to this right now, you're supposed to be here. Yeah. There's like if you're still here, it's like let's figure it out. Like what is the next? And we cannot give you any shortcut. That I think the inner world it truly creates the outer world. Not the other way around. Like, me and you, like we were on the top, and it was like, what next? Next title? The next book, next achievement, next medal, more money. It doesn't work.
Right.
Because like I personally, I was very empty inside, very empty, and I love to fill in my bucket all the time. You know what I mean? And it's just like. And I love it. And I'm learning from people. And it's like, and you said the same word that I said, our bucket is empty. And when we do, suddenly like everybody kind of realign.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think of, again, realigning my priorities. And I think about the role of love and safety in my own experience as a woman, and how much more valuable that is to me than freedom. And I think of, the men of the world relating to freedom very differently, right? Like where there's a kind of freedom that you achieve through being able to buy the things that you want. And then there's a kind of freedom you achieve as a man, I imagine, by being able to buy better versions of the things that you want. And then there's a kind of freedom that you achieve when you commit particularly in relationship, right? You commit and you find a deeper expression of your manhood through that commitment, right? And that's where I believe marriage and family come into play. And I've come to appreciate the role of marriage for women, for children in society in a way that I never could have at more immature stages in my journey. And I make myself laugh because there are certain beliefs that I have now that I imagine like talking to myself 15 years ago. And like, what? Are you like, you shouldn't have sex before there's a proposal? What? Like these kinds of responsibilities that I've seen we can take as women for the collective, for the men that we love to judge, right? Like if I had $1 for every woman I hear say, God, there's no good men out there, right? We're all the good men. And I've come to see, well, there's a responsibility that we have, for example, in how we raise our sons, right? We commit emotional incest all the time. We imagine that our sons, and I don't personally have sons, but I witness this, and I certainly interact with many women's sons as grown men in the world. We put these young boys in a position to emotionally regulate us. We micromanage and castrate them in so many ways so that they become very confused about how to relate to their yang energy, right? How to be men in the world. Do they please mommy or do they express their healthy aggression, right? So how we raise our sons, how we embrace our role as wives, right? Do we know how to bring the king out of the man in front of us? Do we know what it is to show that man respect? Do we understand he only has a green button and a red button and there's no explanation you could possibly give for why you're pushing the red expecting a green outcome, right? So in the ways that we, silly example, but like tell our husbands how to drive a car when we're in the passenger seat, right? So when we can train ourselves, it's a training, really, it's a practice, to stay in our own lane, to focus on our own fulfillment, to focus on our own bodies, then magic happens in the marital sphere, right? We also have a responsibility, as I was alluding to earlier, for our sexual energy and our sexual access. This is how society functions. It's how it's always functioned. And we have lost that because of the sexual liberation agenda, which was, one of the siblings of the feminist agenda, where when we imagine that we can have sex like men do, as if there's parity in the responsibility around our biology and the role of pregnancy, et cetera. And this, of course, brings us to the role of the birth control pill, which is something I have many things to say about as well. But when
I want to hear it.
when we imagine that we can participate in a sexual playing field in the same way as men, we abdicate responsibility, in my opinion, for the role that we play in granting access only to the men who are in their provider protector archetype.
So I got a question for you because I'm listening to you and I'm listening like Jessica right now, my queen. She goes, when she doesn't feel safe, she's like, Jarek, I immediately locked. Like, I don't feel sexy. I don't feel the energy. I don't want to have sex. I'm in the defense mode.
Yeah.
Just stay the fuck away from me. Yeah, that literally, you know what I mean? And it was like, well, what did I do? And it's just the energy. So, and guys don't have that.
Right. But we've been trained as women to ignore that and have sex anyway. And particularly with men we don't know, with men who would not be good fathers to a potential offspring that could be conceived despite birth control and condoms and every other contraceptive under the sun. And because of this, we have lost our capacity to induce masculinity in the men of a culture, right? Where they become a man because they want access to a high value woman.
But it's high value man, high value woman. But I can tell you right now, and I'm gonna get a lot of hate for that, but men are weak right now.
I mean, we both are. I actually think
really weak, and we really begging for help. when I become vulnerable, I couldn't believe it, like how many men is going through the same shit, because I was really castrated
Yeah.
by my wife, my ex-wife. It's really like I completely lost who the hell I am, and the pleasing, then doing everything, it just got me worse and worse in a place that I couldn't figure out who the hell I am. And when I started sharing my story, I write my book and podcast, all stuff, it's like that's it's normal, and we normalize this.
Yeah.
And we talk about sex. It's like normal for women right now is have a body count. It's like it's like now the role exchange. I'm like, wait a minute, you know what I mean? Like now men are being abused. I'm like, wait a minute, like, because we
we're so lost.
You know what I mean? But we are very, because on the end of the day, that's my belief. We all equal. We have one soul. We are divided by men, women, by color, by social status, by financial status. At the end of the day, we want soul, and we all want the one thing. We want love and connection. Mm-hmm. That's it. We want love and connection, but it's hard to love and find love and connection if you don't have it with yourself. That's it. And my bucket was like empty, emptier. That's why I was like, it's time to go. So.
Yeah. And if we look at, right, because when we have, the divorce rates that we have, right, and we have 70% of divorces initiated by college-educated women, then we want to know, okay, well, what was the root cause of what's actually going on? Why are we so lost, and why are families fragmented and fractured? And that's where I came to appreciate the role of courtship, right? The role of the marital institution and appreciation of a man's work and a woman's work, right? And the sacrifices that a man makes when he commits through marriage to a woman, he collapses his sexual cycle, which is chase and capture. It's totally different than a woman's sexual cycle, which is more obviously procreationally aligned for long-term commitment. And he does so because of what he gets out of that connection with a woman, with a family, and the purpose that he derives from giving to society in that way, right? Which he'll never find as, a lone wolf, hopping around from conquest to conquest, right? So that sacrifice is very different than a woman's sacrifice of her potential professional identity, let alone other partners. But really it's, focusing outside on her own self-development. I have a mentor friend of mine, and he asked me this question one time, and he said, when you think about marriage and you think about that kind of partnership, do you think that the best marriage would be found through partnership with somebody who lets you be whoever you want as a woman, right? You get to be whoever you want, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and he just loves you anyway, and you get this full self-expression of your spirit? Or do you think that in service of the connection, there may be parts of you that aren't really invited to the marital bond, and parts of you that you discover that you wouldn't have discovered through that commitment and choice to take on a role in the dynamic? And of course, I
want to know the answer.
There's not a right answer.
I'm not saying this.
However, many women, especially in my generation, who've been raised to imagine that their spiritual quest, right, that my own journey as a woman is all that matters, which is a part of how I became a career-first woman, right? We imagine, well, of course I want to be with somebody who just loves all of me. But in many ways, that is the princess, right? That is the child psychology that says, Mommy, Daddy, love me no matter what. And there's nothing, again, wrong with that. However, if I want to graduate into a different archetypal role as a woman, I will understand that it's the second choice that has far more to offer me and experience that is beyond me. It's the covenant of the relationship, right? That I can't have on my own. I can be myself on my own, right? We can do that as women today. We don't need, somebody next to us necessarily in the commitment of marriage to do that. So what is there that we can achieve through that bond? And you could extend this to family, right? Mm-hmm. Through that experience that we would never touch otherwise. And doesn't mean that we develop a self-mastery that allows us to see what is in service of our priorities, which is connection and autonomy, but it's also connection, right? Because when you bring this mercenary identity that so many women have into marriage and into mothering, there is a war that's like underneath there. And it's an effort to control. It ends up being an effort to control these other beings that results in a kind of disconnection. So when I have decided to prioritize connection, I can sit with my teenage daughter, and even when she brings to me a perspective I don't necessarily agree with, we're talking about college, I can hold myself, remember that I am prioritizing the connection and my commitment to this connection. And I can say something like, tell me more. Instead of launching immediately into my agenda to convince her that I'm right and she's right.
And you know what I say, and it really works. And I remember, like, when I did this first time, my daughter called my queen, Jessica, and she goes, "What the hell happened with Dad?" I truly asked her, "Do you want me to put my dad hat on or just listening?" And she was like, on, and I was listening. I was like, no,
breathe.
It doesn't. And then she said, "Thank you for listening." I'm like, okay.
That's all I had to do.
That's all I have to do.
Right.
And then she brags everybody about it. And the same thing I have with anybody that I want to, listen. And the same thing with Jessica. It's like, I'm like, I want to say something. I just like, there's no point. There's like, there's a shortcut, and it's hard. I got to sit in a conversation, and the conversation goes over and over and over again, and then suddenly it just stops. And if I try to stop, it's nope. But I get it. Women needs to be heard, but we also need to be heard. You know what I mean? Because there's so many women. There's so many women right now. Because let's talk about divorces. The second, there's 70% women initiate divorce, and there's 50% divorce rate, and there's 70% divorce rate on the second marriage. Mm-hmm. So we repeat the same patterns. I'm on my third one, so I'm a slow learner. I did not learn at all until the third one said, "Is like that. I don't care about all this stuff. Like, I want you," but I didn't know how to be me. So like, she's the first woman that gave me permission to be me. And I'm not a princess. Like that's why. Like, my answer is to the question that you got asked. My answer will be definitely the first one.
Well, because you're a man.
Yeah.
And that's where the concept of leadership comes in. Because I think, of course, I agree with you that we are equal. I mean, that's not even a question, right? You get to a certain point of understanding.
I think we have our
what we're doing here.
Yeah, I think we have our strengths and weaknesses. It's like, totally. I cannot walk truly, and I'm not shitting you. I cannot walk and chew the gum. I will bite my tongue, like literally all the time. Right. I'm like, seriously, where like my kids and everybody makes fun of me. That's get if when they drive, do not touch the phone. The second I touch the phone, suddenly I go from 85 miles to 55 miles, 45 miles on the highway. I cannot do that. But all the women around me, like, I surround myself with like the best people that work for me. I have 4 daughters, my partner, and it's like how the hell you do that? Like, you guys open like all the drawers, and you jump between that, and you can just multitask. And I'm like, if one drawer is open, until it's closed, and then it takes a time to right. reset, and then it's like boom,
But you're speaking to complementarity, right? Because even though we are equal, we have these different roles, and I don't think I had any appreciation of masculine leadership again, why? Because I had already demonstrated that I could do with competence so many things that men can do, right? And become a professional in a field that had formerly been male dominated. I went to a college that used to be only all men. I had shown myself, well, if I can do it, then odds are he needs my help doing everything, right? And that is a poison, at least in my perspective from
But the same goes the other way around.
I
Because
don't know.
what happened, no, I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
Men, like I'm against the alpha man bullshit. Just so you know, I'm completely against it. I think when we are open to feminine energy,
Yes.
everything is better.
Of course.
Like truly everything is better. And I'm not embarrassed to cry. I'm not embarrassed to be vulnerable. It's when you start truly love yourself, you open up to yourself and you truly like everything inside is amazing. Suddenly your wife is hotter, you have more understanding to kids, the weather, even though it's raining, it looks nicer. Everything looks better.
Yes.
And that's the feminine energy. And I'm telling you, when you get the feminine energy, believe me, like I wish people experience that, especially men. It's the sex is like unbelievable. You know what I mean? Yeah. But we talk about sex because that's what women and men want. But everything else is better. We need both energy, because I was the alpha man for years. That shit didn't work. It works in a business.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I remember like when we met, just thinking like, you want to be loved or you want to be feared? Fuck the feared. But yet I was a little boy who was asking for love.
Yeah.
I was a little boy. I broke down like 3 years ago on the stage with the man, and I'm like a movie from the with Julia Roberts and what is the movie? She was the prostitute and Richard Gere. What was the Pretty Woman? Yeah. But I was like, I'm the little boy that wants to be loved. And I literally broke down. And was like, everybody, what the fuck is wrong with him? And I kind of because I don't need all this stuff. We want to be loved.
Of course, yeah.
And when I did that, it's like I left soul over there, like something toxic. I left really on the stage. I got home. I was the first hour, I was embarrassed. Like, what the hell just happened? And then I was like, fuck it. Like, I feel good. Like, you know what I mean? And then I woke up next morning. It's like, whoa. And then I can't believe it. It's like, I get all the feedback. All my brothers start hugging me. It's like, dude, you were really open. Like, you said this shit out loud. And I'm like, okay, give me a hug. We need that.
Of course.
I mean,
otherwise you can't attune, right? So if you are in service, right?
I can't believe it. I'm saying that. I can't believe it.
It makes so much sense to me. It's almost logical, right? Like if you are in service as a man, let's say, to the men, women, and children around you, you have to attune to them. That's a neuropsychological phenomenon, right? What does that mean? It means you can perceive on the outside what's going on based on, it's called interoception, what's going on the inside. Mm-hmm. So you have to be home to feel this as a response that you can trust to what's going on out there. Otherwise, you can't make decisions well.
Okay, come on, tell us, how do you feel it? How do you experience it? Because because I'm still exploring. I don't know what the hell's going on into my body. And on the beginning, I'm telling you, I thought maybe I ate something wrong.
Right.
And it's truly my body is telling me, and then my brain, like I told you before, I don't know how to process all the feelings, emotions, and all this stuff going on, the wounds.
Yeah.
How
this is where I really am I don't know about a man's body, and I focus on women, but I'll tell you what it's like for a woman in my estimation, right? So the groundwork first is these concepts that we've been talking about, right? So neuroception is how I assess my environment, just as a human, not as a woman or a man, and my environment for safety, right? So when my neuroception is influenced by past traumas, past beliefs, past experiences, ideologies, then I can perceive a lack of safety even when everything is totally fine. And, of course, vice versa, but that's more common, right? So I can be in my dark bedroom and I can see a pile of laundry on a chair, and I can open my eyes and go and think it's an intruder, but it's a pile of laundry. There's no reason to get upset and scared. It's just or freak out. It's just a pile of laundry. But that perception is what determines my internal response. But it's my nervous system that determines my perception, right? So when you start to heal in the ways that we're talking about, which means you just focus on the basics of self-care. So I have a protocol. It's the most basic lifestyle medicine, okay? So I call it chopping wood, carrying water. You just focus on those daily decisions that you make every single day. Take responsibility for them, get serious, commit, and choose with discipline for a month. And you start to feel safer. How could that be possible? It's because when you show up, and you called it the inner focus, right? When you show up for yourself, there is something on a nervous system level that shifts out of.
But we have to do smaller, because what happened is, because when I was breaking the promises, I have to make those promises very small, so yes. I can really last that 30 days.
Yeah, that's why it's very basic.
Yes,
it's not in my protocol. There's no supplements. There's no fancy things going on. It's literally like, what are you going to do when you open your eyes? What are you going to do the first thing you eat? It's like a programmatic roadmap to care for yourself the way you would a baby you love, just very basic stuff. And then what starts to happen is you recognize that there are sensations. Like a lot of women earlier in this journey will tell me, I just feel numb, right? Like I don't even know. When you ask me, like, what am I feeling in my body? Like, I literally don't feel anything from here down. I don't know, right? And of course, it's very like relatable.
I didn't know what it like.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, right? I don't like how I feel. That's it. How do you feel? I don't know. I was like, what's wrong? I truly don't know. Like, describe your feelings. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then it was funny when I was introduced to this, like the emotional feelings, like that like a circle with all this stuff.
All those feelings, yeah.
I'm like, what? There's only love and anger. Like, right. Wow.
Good and bad.
Yeah, good and bad.
Maybe
like,
okay.
Yeah. And I was started experiencing, I started reading about all this stuff and the feelings and emotions. But there's a difference. So there's how do you feel, like not how you feel, how do you read your emotions, as a man, women would, how do you
so as a woman, I've come to, there's a practice I teach, and it's so simple. Everything I teach is very simple. I am very practical. I'm a New Yorker, remember, at heart. So everything's very get to the point. And it's called Enter Through the Upset. And basically all that this means is that anytime you feel upset, and that's a specific word, because it can range from like an email you didn't like to, getting served divorce papers. Anytime that you feel upset, you are committed to prioritizing your felt experience. What does that mean? It means as soon as you're able, you stop everything. You go into a bathroom, lock yourself in the bathroom, you go to your bedroom. You only need 90 seconds. And in this 90 seconds, you are going to commit to just feeling what's happening. And I play a lot with the language of polarities. So I will say you self-husband in that moment. It could be father, you could use any term you like, but I play with this word. What does that mean? It means that you show up inside of your body as if a devoted husband was in the room with you. You feel your spine, right? You are focusing your attention. You're saying things like, what do you got for me, baby? Right? Like, show me what's happening. And in doing that 10-second inner visualization, somatic visualization, you're going to feel your spine, and your gaze will naturally almost like rest downward because you're ready to take it all in. Now maybe your eyes are even closed when you're doing this. And then you just watch and you say, I see that. I see that. Oh, I have tightness and tingling in my chest. I feel like hot waves up my neck. Oh, now it's in my stomach. I feel like a clench in my stomach. That's it. You're not saying, oh, it's my grief from my great ancestors. It's just the bare observation. And as you do that, it will shift, because that's what emotions do. They move and they shift. They're alchemical. They change. But because we're told as kids, stop crying, calm down,
yeah.
go to your room.
Yeah.
We don't know the arc, right? We don't know that the edge of what we will do anything to avoid feeling has an arc, and it will shift often, if not always, in 90 seconds. That's how disconnected we are from what the natural cycles of our emotions are. So you do that, and it has an immediate impact, because not only have you moved some of the energy, allowed it to move, but now you have shown up for yourself in a way that registers as safe, okay? Because it means you're on your own team.
Yeah.
And it means you're present and you're offering your attention. And this, it's like a meta pattern disrupt, especially for women who are in many ways conditioned to relate to their emotions as something, and of course men are in their own way too, something to fix through external manipulation. So manipulation and this kind of strategic influence is a natural, is a natural method, right? It's not an evil thing that we do. It's the way that you mitigate the feelings that you don't want to feel. And you don't have to manipulate when you can come to understand what it is that you need and ask for it and be, in a more direct relationship to your inner experience. So that's one. And then once you do that, the little yes, I call it a little yes and a little no, inside of ourselves, our intuition, becomes much easier to feel. And it's like a little tap. It's a little whisper. It's not like the big raging, like, no. And it's not the like, hell yes either. It's a little, nope. Yep. Do I come to this interview or not?
I'm like, fuck no. Like literally, for me, like literally. Yeah. And it's like, yeah. And then I've heard, okay, that's what it's like. And then if I say yes, and then it goes like the feelings of, oh shit.
Exactly.
It's like, why did I say that? Yeah. Like, or why did I agree to that? And the people pleasing and all this stuff come in. It's like, it doesn't serve me. So it doesn't serve the energy. And it's I don't know. It's just something that I think we'll have to experience, and we're gonna learn our body for the rest of our lives.
Yes.
So, you work with the groups, or you work one-on-one? How do you do?
These
days,
do you
like a women group,
these days we take women through. It's called the Relaxed Woman System, because I have, after all of what we've been talking about, come to conclude that when a woman's system is relaxed, there is nothing but magic, creativity, and beauty that comes through her body. And when we are in these tight, constrained shapes, and when we are in the bitterness and resentment and disappointment that attends so much of our particular struggles, we look at, right? And we really stifle our magic. So the system is twice a year we have groups come through, and so we coach.
You work on one-on-one too, or no?
Rarely, but on occasion. On some
you have like an emergency.
I do. Yeah, exactly. It's like a special track for if it feels, again, I always feel that yes and that no. But I come from my role as doctor, and I do think that because I have an MD, we're still in these moments in our collective history where I have a special ability to give women permission to believe that there's nothing wrong with them. And because when you go to a doctor, it's always implied that something is wrong with you, that you're broken, that you're damaged. And of course, this isn't the intention of doctors to convey that message, but it's part of the system, right? You wouldn't be seeking out a doctor to tell you about yourself if you didn't need validation of the belief that something is wrong with you, right? You're fundamentally
but then we're looking for validation. We're looking for it's like somebody that agree with me, and I was like, well, that's a validation. And then if it's based on the wound or trauma, it stays within you. That's what that's what happened with me.
Well, especially if you take a medication, because what happens in that ritual is every day you're opening a bottle with your name on it that is reinforcing the belief that something is fundamentally wrong with you. And the heights of your power can only be accessed through compliance. And that's a lie, in my opinion, and my lived experience, that it's your specific, and I think you would agree, your specific challenges, your specific adversity it's where the light shines through, right? It's where your purpose arises from, and it can only be accessed if you walk through the dark, right? And I think that we are, especially in group settings, we can remember that, right? We can remember, oh yes, it's like that quote, like everything I've ever wanted is on the other side of my fears, right? And so I like to think, well, if I'm in a position to help women remember their biology, right? Remember the wisdom of their bodies, then I'm also...
And who they are.
Yeah, exactly.
Who
then
they
I'm
are.
also
It's
in a
like as
position
simple
to
as it
remember
is. Just figure out who you are. And it just like, don't look for the permission or validation from the outside world. Just find the answer within. And it's funny, women and men. You know?
Yeah.
Because, but believe me, like we've been castrated as a man, and even through the love of the mother.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then we come to the fatherhood or adulthood, and then fatherhood, and then we truly don't know because we are in the pleasing environment that if I don't perform, then I'm gonna be penalized.
Yeah. It's
So,
confusing, right?
It is. But tell me where people can find you. Read your books. I'm gonna read those books, just so you know. I mean, I really appreciate it. It's like I'm gonna just inhale them. So it's tell people where we can find you. And
Yeah. So I have I've been on quite a censorship ride over the years, as you can imagine, based on what I just described. But I also have a podcast called Reclamation Radio, which has interestingly been the most free platform I've ever enjoyed, right? Because I was, kicked off of Facebook and all these other platforms. And like my podcast is like, I could say whatever I want. So that's wonderful. And then I'm otherwise over at kellybroganmd.com, where you can find that system, the Relaxed Woman system I referenced.
okay, thank you. I
such a
appreciate you
pleasure.
guys. Follow us, like us, subscribe. If you like the podcast, share it, and love life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Leave your comments and subscribe for more insights on mastering the inner and outer wealth.